Today's lesson is Cotton and Consequences. World Cotton Day shines a light on this convenient cloth. Hi, everybody. My name is Roger.
And I'm Mike.
And today we're talking about the fabric or the material that the shirt you're wearing right now is likely made of. Cotton, okay? Most shirts and pants and other kinds of garments are made with cotton these days. I don't really wear much cotton myself because I realize that cotton in Taiwan just doesn't work. It always makes me feel really hot, so I switched to polyester many years ago, although polyester isn't really good for the environment. It has those microplastics and stuff like that, but still, I feel much cooler in polyester than I would in cotton.
People have been making clothes out of cotton for a very, very, very long time, and partly it's because it's tough, it lasts a long time, it washes easily, and it is very, very versatile. I think they even blend cotton with other things, don't they? So you might have a shirt that's part cotton and part polyester. So we're going to be learning about cotton and the consequences of cotton. Now, that's a pretty serious word to see there when we're talking about a fabric, you know, something that we make clothes out of. What are the consequences of something, or sort of the results of something, and maybe the kind of negative results? If you behave badly, your mother or your teacher or someone might say, there's going to be consequences if you break the rules. There will be results from your actions, and that's basically what a consequence is. When you do something, it will cause other things to happen. And generally, if those are good things, well, that's fine, but if they're bad, we might use this word consequences a little more frequently for the sort of negative results or effects of choices or actions or behaviors. So apparently, by buying and using cotton, there are consequences. We're going to be talking more about the environmental consequences and some of the social and economic consequences too, and find out that cotton isn't just, you know, a fluffy little thing that we pick from a field and turn into shirts and pants and other things. It's a big business, and of course, like anything that requires natural resources to grow and to process, it has an effect on the earth. So World Cotton Day shines a light on, or brings attention to, this convenient cloth. Cotton and consequences. World Cotton Day shines a light on this convenient cloth. October 7th is World Cotton Day. You probably didn't know that. In fact, you probably don't think about cotton much at all. But you're almost certainly wearing it. After all, over 3/4 of the world's clothing contains at least some cotton. But despite its key role in our closets, few are aware of this fabric's true cost.
大家好，第一部分介绍名词 fabric， 它的意思是布料或是织物。例如 The two dresses look similar, but they are made of different kinds of fabrics. 这两件洋装看似相似，但它们是用不同种类的布料制成的。或者 Shelley made the dress using a soft fabric, ensuring both comfort and style. Shelley 用柔软的布料制作了这件洋装，确保舒适度和时尚。
Okay, now let's talk about the first part of our lesson. Yes, we're talking about cotton and consequences, and we're talking about World Cotton Day. It shines a light on this convenient cloth. It shines a light. Basically, it just gives us a little bit of information. You've got one day to prepare, everybody. World Cotton Day is tomorrow. So, yeah, get online and find out where local celebrations are taking place. Wear your cotton garments. Who knows how we're going to celebrate it, but October 7th is World Cotton Day. You probably didn't know that. I didn't know that either. Thank goodness for this article. Otherwise, I would not know that tomorrow is World Cotton Day. In fact, you probably don't think about cotton much at all. That's probably true. Most of us just go to the store and we see something we like. It looks good. It's kind of pretty. It's kind of attractive. We try it on. It fits. And then we buy it and take it home. And we don't really look at the label inside to find out what it's made of. But a lot of times, of course, it's going to be made of cotton, but we don't really know it for sure.
That's right. We're not making clothes. We're not designing clothes. Maybe, as Roger said, if you're in the store, you might read the label or touch the cloth, touch the fabric, and think, oh, that's cotton. That's polyester. But But once we buy it, once we're wearing it, it's just our shirt. We never say, I'm going to wear a cotton shirt today. I'm just going to wear a blue shirt or whatever. So we don't think about it, but you're almost certainly wearing it. There's a very, very high probability, a high chance. We're 90% sure that you're wearing some cotton right now. Maybe not your shirt, maybe not your pants, but your socks, your underwear. Somewhere on your body, there is probably some cotton or cotton blended or mixed with other fabrics to make certain things because it is so common in the clothing business. After all, it says over 3/4 of the world's clothing contains at least some cotton. So 3/4, as most of you have figured out already, 75% of the world's clothing contains at least some cotton. And yeah, here we're talking about those cotton blends because we can have things made with cotton and polyester, like 90% cotton, 10% polyester to make it a little stretchier or a little tougher or something like that. So at least some cotton, a little bit of cotton in almost every piece of clothing. There's a 75% chance that anything that you wear has cotton in it because 75% of the clothes in the world are made from cotton.
But despite its key role in our closets, few are aware of this fabric's true cost. And we're not talking about the cost in terms of how much it costs to buy a t-shirt at a local store. Oh, this t-shirt costs $200 NT or something like that. No, we're not talking about that cost. We're talking about the effect it has on the environment, how it destroys the environment or how it uses water resources and things like that. So yeah, we're not really truly aware of that. I certainly am not, or I am now after I prepared for this lesson, but I didn't really know how much water that we need to use in order to produce cotton. But we're calling cotton a kind of fabric, okay? A fabric is a kind of cloth. It's usually woven with special machines, and then it is used to create clothing, okay? It's kind of like a cloth, but fabric is more specific. It's been woven and it's been colored or dyed a certain way and it's made out of certain materials. So cotton is a fabric. We've got polyester, we've got wool, we've got linen, we've got hemp. There are different kinds of fabrics out there.
Exactly. When you touch that shirt on the rack, just to kind of feel it between your fingers, that's when you're testing the fabric. It has nothing to do with the design or the shape or the cut or the style of the clothing, just what the clothing is made of, that fabric or that cloth that is used to make it. So let's find out about the true cost. This is kind of going back to that word, the consequences that we saw in our title, not talking about the monetary, the money value of cotton, nothing about that, but about the environmental cost or the social cost and things like that. So it's going to get a little serious here for a moment. So let's get into the second part of the article and find out some of the true costs or consequences of our love of cotton.
It's hard to exaggerate the global importance of cotton. Made from the fibers of the cotton plant, it's produced in over 70 countries and supports many millions of livelihoods. It's breathable and tough, and cotton fibers can be mixed with other fibers to make a wide range of useful fabrics. However, concerns about cotton's environmental impact and human rights abuses in its supply chain have cast doubts on the industry's future.
第二部分看到动词 exaggerate 表示夸大其词、夸张。例如 David tends to exaggerate his achievements to make himself look better. David 往往会夸大自己的成就，让自己看起来更厉害。或是 Toby exaggerated his injury to try and get some sympathy. Toby 夸大了自己的伤势，试图博取一些同情。继续看到名词 fiber表示植物或人造物的纤维或是纤维物质。例如 Scientists are developing new fiber materials for eco-friendly textiles. 科学家正在开发用于环保纺织品的新型纤维材料。或是 Did you know that paper is made from wood fibers? 你知道纸张是木纤维制成的吗？下一个看到名词 abuse 表示虐待或是伤害。例如The organization provides support for victims of domestic abuse. 该组织为家暴受害者提供支援。也可以说 Child abuse is a serious issue that must be reported immediately. 虐待儿童是严重问题，必须立刻通报。
Okay, so here in the second part, we're saying it's hard to exaggerate the global importance of cotton. Okay, so if you exaggerate something, you kind of present something as being larger or more serious or more intense than it really is. It could be less as well. For example, one time my brother got stung by a bee and he was going, "Oh, it hurts. Oh, it's so terrible. Oh, I can't bear this." "Oh, you're exaggerating. It can't be that bad. It's just a bee sting. It's just an insect." And I felt that way until I got stung by a bee, and then I realized, oh, it does hurt a lot. So I guess he wasn't exaggerating.
Yeah, if you're really hungry and you say, "I'm so hungry I could eat an elephant," clearly you're exaggerating because no one could possibly be that hungry, but you're doing it just as a way of sort of showing how you feel about something, giving a more emotional impact to what you're saying. So it's hard to overstate or to exaggerate, to go beyond the truth of the global importance of cotton. It's extremely important. Remember, 75% of the clothes we wear have cotton in it. So if cotton suddenly disappeared, we'd all be walking around naked or something like that. It's made from the fibers of the cotton plant. It's produced in over 70 countries and supports many millions of livelihoods. All right, there's a very quick, brief example of how important cotton is. First, where it comes from. It's made from the fibers of the cotton plant. Yes, this is a plant that grows in warm parts of the world. And then you take this ball. It kind of looks like a cotton ball, like the kind of thing you might use in your bathroom to remove makeup or something like that. A fiber is a long strand of something, so it'll be quite long, not very wide. Think of a hair, that's kind of like a fiber, or think about all the things that you see in your shirt. If you look at your cotton shirt from a very close distance, you will see all these long, thin things that are then woven and sort of, they kind of put them together in a certain way that makes them strong and makes that fabric, makes that cloth. But each individual piece of that cloth is a fiber. We also use this to talk about our muscles, right? If you ever look at a scientific picture of a human muscle or any muscle, it's made up of these long bits of flesh, these long bits of organic material, and those are muscle fibers. If you injure yourself, tear a muscle, those fibers have been damaged in some way. But they're long, thin things, and often we wrap or bundle them together to make a rope or a muscle or a cloth, a piece of cloth or some fabric. So we take these fibers from the cotton plant in order to produce it. It's made, it's produced, it's grown, and also made, taken from the farmer's fields and then woven into cloth in over 70 countries. So a lot of countries rely on the cotton economy to provide jobs or livelihoods for people. So millions of people's jobs or livelihoods depend on cotton. So yeah, your livelihood is your job and the way that you earn your money. How do you make your livelihood? What is your job and how do you make your money?
Yep, it could include the farmers who pick the cotton from the fields, the people who process the cotton in factories. They remove the seeds, they wash the cotton, they wind them into reels or spools of cotton, and they're later sold as fabric, and people make them into clothes and things like that. So yes, indeed, people depend on cotton for their livelihoods or for their survival. It's breathable and tough, and cotton fibers can be mixed with other fibers to make a wide range of useful fabrics. So these are some of the advantages and characteristics of cotton. Cotton is breathable. That means air can pass through it. So if you wear cotton, you should feel fairly cool even in hot weather. Cotton is also tough. It's very difficult to rip cotton, like silk, for example. That's probably pretty easy to rip, whereas cotton is stronger. It's tougher. And cotton fibers can also be mixed with other fibers. As we said, you can mix cotton with polyester or maybe even wool or something like that, and you can make a wide range of useful fabrics. A wide range here just means a lot of different kinds of fabrics that can make different kinds of clothing or other items that need to use cloth.
So there's a quick snapshot of how important cotton is, clearly. However, here's the but. Concerns or worries about cotton's environmental impact and human rights abuses in its supply chain have cast doubts on the industry's future. So we're getting into the consequences or the problems with the cotton industry or cotton use around the world. There's an environmental impact. It damages the environment, but to produce cotton. And there are also human rights abuses. The people who grow the cotton or process it, especially in poorer countries, they might have their human rights abused. When you abuse something, you treat it cruelly in in some kind of way. You don't treat it well. You inflict things on it that would not be acceptable in society. You may even break the law, right? We often hear of human rights abuses in certain countries where the government locks people up for no reason or tortures people who are poor and have to travel overseas to work in certain jobs that are very difficult, might be abused by having poor working conditions, low pay, no freedom, things like that. So an abuse is sort of a cruel and uncaring treatment of a person or an animal or other things as well. So people who work in the cotton business, the farmers, the people who pick the cotton, they don't work in the best conditions. And this is in the supply chain, as Roger explained, all the people who make and produce cotton, from the farmers in the fields to the people who process the cotton to the people who bake things out of the fabric. That's the supply chain, basically, from where something comes from to the store where we access it. So from the farmer's field to the supermarket, there's a long supply chain. Those tomatoes or whatever that you're buying, it goes through all these different stages in its journey from one place to the consumer. So all of these worries, all of these concerns, all of these issues have cast doubts, have sort of shown that there are major problems and have brought a lot of negative attention to the industry's future. There certainly seems to be a problem in cotton land, and we're going to find out more about it, starting with some of the environmental impact in the next paragraph.
Cotton is water hungry. Estimates suggest it takes 7,000 to 10,000 liters to produce just 1 kilogram. In some regions, the crop is having a catastrophic effect on local water resources. The Aral Sea, for example, has all but vanished due to intensive cotton farming. Additionally, many farmers use pesticides to increase production, so any water left in nearby rivers or lakes is often polluted by chemical-filled runoff.
第三部分看到名词 estimate， 它的意思是估计、估算或是评价。例如 Some estimates suggest that Mandy earned over $1 million last year. 一些估算显示 Mandy 去年赚了超过100万美元。后面看到 liter 这个单字，它是名词，指公升。例如 How many liters of gas did you put in the car? 你的车加了几公升的油？再看一个例子 Sally bought a liter of milk at the store. Sally 在店里买了1公升的牛奶。下一个介绍形容词 intensive， 意思是密集的或是集约的。举例来说 The athlete underwent an intensive training regimen to prepare for the competition. 该运动员进行了密集的训练计划，为比赛做准备。又或者说 Mining is a labor-intensive industry. 采矿是个劳力密集的产业。最后看到名词 pesticide， 指杀虫剂或是农药。找个例句 It is better to open an organic farm because the pesticides used in large-scale agriculture can irreparably damage the environment. 开设一间有机农场比较好，因为大规模农业中所使用的杀虫剂会对环境造成无可挽回的伤害。最后一句 Pesticide residue on vegetables can be harmful to health. 蔬菜上的农药残留可能对健康有害。
Okay, here in the final paragraph, it talks about some of the disadvantages to cotton. Cotton is water hungry. That means it likes to use a lot of water when you grow it. Estimates suggest it takes 7,000 to 10,000 liters to produce just 1 kilogram.
Wow.
So these are estimates. We don't know exactly for sure how much water is used, so they have to make an estimate. They kind of have to make an educated guess about how much water is used. A liter is a unit of measurement, and of course, gasoline is sold by the liter here in Taiwan. And that's a lot of water to produce just 1 kilogram of cotton. In some regions, the crop is having a catastrophic effect on local water resources. So catastrophic is the adjective form of the word catastrophe. A catastrophe is just a disaster, something terrible that happens. So yeah, a catastrophic effect is just a disastrous effect, a really bad effect on local water resources.
Wow, okay. Okay, so in some regions, the cotton crop, is having a catastrophic, a disastrous, a hugely negative effect on local water resources. So they're using way too much water to produce cotton. Here's a dramatic example. The Aral Sea, for example, has all but vanished due to intensive cotton farming. So this is sort of around the center of Russia. I believe the Aral Sea also borders on some of the former Russian republics there, right in the middle of Asia. And it has all but vanished. The sea has basically dried up. When a sea vanishes, it dries up because the water is just not there anymore, often because it's being pumped out into farmers' fields. And this is due to the intensive cotton farming. Something that is intensive is very concentrated at a very high level. If you're doing intensive exercise, you're really working out your heart and your lungs and your muscles, and you can only sustain that for a short time before your body will sort of collapse. So they're really producing a lot of cotton, probably all year round, because the weather in this part of the world is warmer. So they're really producing a lot of cotton, and it's having a big negative effect on the land and on the water supply. Additionally, it says many farmers use pesticides or chemicals to increase production. So they're spraying things on the cotton. That, of course, goes into the water supply, and it can harm humans and animals and other things. So any water left in nearby rivers or lakes, even if most of it's been pumped out, the little bit of water left there is often polluted by chemical-filled runoff. And runoff is exactly what happens when those pesticides, when those chemicals get washed into the water supply, and then it ends up in drinking water and other things that can, of course, poison human and other living things.
Yep, they're using those pesticides to kill lots of bugs like the boll weevil or other kinds of insects that like to eat cotton. And then, of course, we got the runoff, and that causes environmental damage. Okay, we're at the end of our explanation for today. Here comes Hanny.
各位同学大家好，我是 Hanny。 我们来看今天的文法重点。课文第一部分有一句提到 Over 3/4 of the world's clothing contains at least some cotton. 全球超过3/4的服装都含有至少一部分的棉花。这边我们来学习分数的读写方式。用英文读写分数时，分子在前，分母在后，那中间通常会加入连字号。分子摆在前面要用基数来表达，也就是 1, 2, 3等等。那么分母摆在后面是要用序数表达，也就是 third, fourth, fifth 等等。如果这个分子是大于1，那么分母的序数就要加上 s。像2/3，我们要说 2/3。特别注意1/2的话，我们是会用 a half 或者是 1/2 去表达那种一半的语义。那么当分母是4的时候，除了用 fourth 也可以用 quarter 去表达。所以像3/4可以说 3/4 或者是说 3/4， 不过 3/4 是比较常见的。好，再来，如果碰到带分数，我们就用 and 去连接整数和分数的部分。所以像5又2/3，我们要读作 5 and 2/3。另外，当分子分母是比较大或是比较复杂的数字时，你可以在两个数字之间加上 over， 这时候分子跟分母都用基数表达。举例来说，90/57，你可以直接读作 57/90。好，在使用分数的时候我们常常会用分数 of 加名词去表示。我们这边造2个例句。1/3 of their income is spent on rent. 他们1/3的收入花在房租上。句子里面 their income 是单数名词，那我们后面就搭配了单数动词 is。好，第2个例句。3/4 of the workers are from Vietnam. 3/4的员工来自越南。那句中的 the workers 是复数名词，我们后面就搭配了复数动词 are。好，课文第3部分他提到说，许多农民使用杀虫剂来增加产量。那他用到 pesticide 这个名词表示杀虫剂或农药。我们来补充一下它的字源。看到 pest 它是指害虫，有害的动物，通常是有害的小动物。那么 CIDE 它是指导致死亡的事物或者是杀害者。从字面语义来看，是杀掉害虫的东西，也就是杀虫剂、除害药物。我们这边也顺便补充几个有 CIDE 结尾的单字。第一个 suicide， 它的字首 SUI 表示 of oneself 自己的 CIDE 是杀害，合在一起 suicide 表示自杀行为。第二个补充的是 homicide， 它的字首 HOMI 是来自拉丁文的 HOME 表示人类，那么 CIDE 表示杀害，合在一起 homicide 它表示谋杀人的意思。第三个补充的是 genocide， 它的字首 GENO 表示种族， CIDE 是杀害，合在一起 genocide 它是指种族灭绝大屠杀的意思。好，那以上是今天重点整理，我们回顾今天单字吧。
Consequence. You should carefully consider the consequences before making your decision. Fabric. Silk is one of the most luxurious fabrics in the world. Exaggerate. Freddie tends to exaggerate the stories he tells to make them more interesting. Fiber. This shirt is made of natural fibers, which makes it breathable, comfortable, and eco-friendly. Abuse. Sadly, the dog had suffered abuse for many years. Estimate. Government estimates suggest the town hall will be completed by the end of the year. Intensive. Robots are increasingly used in the car industry to replace more labor-intensive production methods.
Well, that brings us to the end of another edition of our program, and please make sure you join us again next time. From all of us here, I am Roger.
I am Mike.
See you next time.